President Trump announced one of his first moves as president to the cheers and delight of those at Capital One Arena.
I'm going to be signing on the J6 hostages, pardons, to get them out. And as soon as I leave, I'm going to the Oval Office and we'll be signing pardons for a lot of people,
The move, made just hours after his return to the White House, includes rioters convicted of assaulting police officers and commutations for 14 members of far-right extremist groups, like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Joining me now is the Hill's courts and legal reporter, Zach Schonfeld. So Zach, in the weeks leading up to his presidency, Trump had suggested that each case would be looked at individually to decide who will receive pardons. Is that the case here?
I think these pardons are going a lot more broadly than what a lot of people had been expecting. During Trump's entire transition, there had been this question of exactly how many of these cases would they pardon. These cases have always been seen as really on a spectrum. On one end, you have these defendants who were on Capitol grounds on January 6th, but were completely nonviolent. And then all the way on the other end, you have some of these organized groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. But what ended up happening in this order that Trump signed is pardoning almost all of them, about 1,500 cases in total. The only people that did not get a full pardon were 14 individuals who are either members of the Oath Keepers or Proud Boys, who instead their sentences were commuted to time served. So the bottom line of what Trump did here is now all of these January 6th defendants are being set free. In fact, even just in the hours following this executive order and these pardons being signed, we already saw some of these defendants walking out of the D.C. jail and elsewhere.
So does this effectively stop the largest criminal investigation that the Department of Justice has ever carried out? Like, is it officially over from here?
It essentially is. And this really has been going now for 4 years, as you mentioned, the largest criminal investigation in the Justice Department's history. It began quickly after the January 6th Capitol attack in those days of early 2021, when here in the nation's capital, at bus stops, the FBI had been plastering wanted posters. Of course, they had done so online and social media elsewhere. That resulted now in more than 1,500 prosecutions that were brought across 4 years. And even up in just until recent days, even this month, there were still trials going on, sentencings, and other proceedings. So it was a huge effort over the last 4 years by the Biden administration's Justice Department, but now quickly being brought to an end with those pardons, which is ending any remaining cases that haven't yet gotten to trial.
And Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency was hit with 3 lawsuits just minutes after Trump became president. All 3 are arguing that DOGE should be considered a federal advisory committee. What type of legal battle are you anticipating to see here?
Yeah, these were the first lawsuits really filed of this new Trump administration. One was filed right at 12:02 p.m., which was the exact minute that Trump took the oath of office, and the other lawsuits filed in just a few minutes thereafter. These lawsuits, if they're successful in getting this new DOGE organization deemed a federal advisory committee, that would make it subject to various transparency requirements about their meetings and their membership, and there's a requirement that it be fairly balanced. And so that's what these groups are after. These are 3 different coalitions that have all filed separate lawsuits. One is being led by the American Public Health Association. Another is being led by Public Citizen. And then a third is being led by actually 2 individuals who say they applied to DOGE and have not yet heard back from Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. So we'll see now that DOGE has been officially created under an executive order, how this lawsuit progresses. There's no motion yet seeking an immediate stop on DOGE's operations, but there's no question that's what these lawsuits seek to do, is stop DOGE from moving forward.
Zach Schonfeld, thank you so much.
Thanks, Bianca.
President Trump announced several executive orders aimed at immigration on his first day in office. The moves seek to restart the Remain in Mexico program, end Birthright citizenship, and pause refugee admissions. Joining me now is the Hill staff writer, Rafael Bernal. So Rafael, Trump said he would end Birthright citizenship, shut down the CBP One App, and declared a national emergency proclamation. Can you break down what we know so far on all of these moves?
Well, the general idea is it's very similar to what Trump did in his first week in office, first month in office in 2017 on immigration, but it's sort of a more sophisticated version. A lot of the more controversial, more extreme measures were tested in court in the first 4 years, have been tested in court over the 4 years of the Biden administration. The people who wrote them the first time around are the same people writing them now, no secret, led by Stephen Miller. And they're just trying to make better versions of these that can stand up to more court action. But yeah, you're going to see like the loudest the loudest of these are going to be things like you mentioned, the end of birthright citizenship, or all the restrictions on asylum at ports of entry that will accumulate on top of the Biden administration's restrictions on asylum between ports of entry. And some advocates say essentially shutting the doors entirely to asylum and opening the doors for more potential illegal immigration the way it existed before the 2014 wave of undocumented minors.
Well, we know the ACLU has already sued over Trump's order aimed at ending birthright citizenship. The Constitution bestows citizenship on anyone born in the U.S., regardless of the status of their parents. So, do you think this will end up at the Supreme Court? And if so, how do you think the court might rule?
It almost certainly will end up at the Supreme Court. I do get the sense that there will be some venue hunting for the lower courts, but it will have to be tested in effect. The current interpretation is if you are born under the jurisdiction of the United States, that is, if your parents can be tried by a U.S. court, if your parents can be arrested under a warrant by a U.S. cop, you're under the jurisdiction. So basically, that's not diplomats and not any invading armies. The invasion side, the Trump administration is going to try to use its rhetoric on invasion to make the argument that some undocumented immigrants are not actually under under U.S. civil jurisdiction. It's going to be a hard case to make. There is one major mistake in the order itself. It says that the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted, something to that effect, to mean what it has always been interpreted to do, and that has been birthright citizenship for anyone born in the United States ever since the existence of immigration law, frankly, which came after the 14th Amendment anyway. So yes, it will end up probably at the Supreme Court. The only chance it has of not of succeeding from Trump's view is if the court changes the interpretation of how the way this amendment has been interpreted since it was put together in Reconstruction.
Well, another move Trump made on day one was designating certain cartels as foreign terror organizations. Which groups is he specifically targeting, and does this give the president the authority to go after drug cartels in foreign countries in different ways?
The first one is a very interesting question because Venezuelan cartel Tren de Aragua, which is a major criminal problem in South America, and Salvadoran cartel MS-13, which has become sort of multinational, but is mostly confined to Central America and the United States. Those were the two mentioned. The concern in Latin America has been more that the Sinaloa cartel, Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, the Mexican cartels, the major Mexican cartels, are named as terrorist organizations. They haven't come up yet. They probably will. And the question really will remain is whether the Trump administration would interpret that as permission to go into Mexico with or without the acquiescence of the Mexican government and attack these cartels. Now that could basically end the U.S.-Mexico relationship as we've known it for the last 100 years. There's one thing that 99% of Mexicans will agree on. It's going to be that they don't want U.S. military force in their territory, mostly for historical reasons, but that's right wing, left wing. It's sort of the essence of the Mexican nation. So that would be a major change. It can be used also to make that case for invasion, and then make expulsions and the 14th Amendment stuff that we discussed earlier, easier within U.S. territory against certain individuals who could be potentially linked to those cartels.
Sounds like a lot is at stake here. Rafael Bernal, staff writer at The Hill, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All the way from Texas and deep into Florida, the South is being blasted by extreme cold and blizzard conditions like we haven't seen in decades. News Nation's Xavier Walton has the latest on the deep freeze.
This is it. Not something you see every day, at least in Houston. For the first time in 65 years, so since 1960, the Houston metro area, as you take a look around, has gotten more than 3 inches of snow. Now that's unofficial. We're still waiting for the initial numbers, but if that happens, it would certainly be a record. Now from Texas all the way to Florida, states and people are bracing for this Arctic air breezing a rain-snow mix, freezing rain, sleet, and snow in many parts of the country, especially in the southeast. We actually spoke to the mayor of Houston, who says they have been preparing for days. Take a listen.
All hands on deck, collaboration with the county, the state, with our nonprofits, our charities. Everyone's come together to be prepared. We've been prepared since Thursday when we got notice of this Arctic blast coming in.
Other states obviously taking notice, as well as the winter weather warnings stretching along the Gulf Coast. Something also to note, the National Weather Service for the very first time issuing a blizzard warning for parts of southeast Texas, think Beaumont area, which is about an hour east of Houston, and also parts of Louisiana. Louisiana, the governor there declaring a state of emergency. We spoke with the mayor of Beaumont, Texas. Here he is.
I had to take a double take when there was a blizzard warning for Beaumont, Texas. We've had some snow before, but this right now, it is really coming down. So experiencing all the wind and the snow, this is a unique experience.
So certainly quite the experience for the pets and the people, as well as you see people getting extra creative. You've got cardboards, you've got laundry baskets, you've even got pans and sheets. People are using whatever they can to go down the hill here in Houston. Bianca?
Xavier Walton, thank you. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Bianca Facchinei. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel, and come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.